We're super excited you're here. We're going to jump into it. The sounds of grace. You come to church on Easter Sunday and you're like, what does that mean? Well, welcome to my head. I was sitting at home preparing a message, and as I was preparing the message, all of a sudden, God really began to speak to my heart about all the noises that surrounded the cross and the resurrection. So I need some interaction, okay? So what are some of those noises? Just shout out a noise that you come or you think of when you think of the resurrection or the cross. What's that? Mocking. What's yelling, okay? More? Pain, hurting. One more. I figured everyone would say it at that point. You're right. So there's noises, and here's the thing. We have noises in our head, do we not? Some of us have more than one voice in our head, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother message. But today, I want to look first at Matthew 28, 8 through 9. It says, the women ran quickly from the tomb. They were frightened, but also filled with great joy, and rushed to give the disciples the angel's message. And as they went, Jesus met them and greeted them. And they ran to him, grasped his feet, and worshiped him. Then Jesus said to them. What I love about this, quickly before we get into it, Jesus met them. He went to them, and he met them, and he greeted them. Remember, the last time he saw them was his perspective from the cross looking down, and he knew in that last week, he knew that he was going to be deserted, but he was still deserted. But you notice that when he shows up and talks to them, he doesn't give them a guilt trip of asking where they were. So if you come to this place every Sunday, or this is your first Sunday back, praise Jesus. We're glad you're here. Right? And so as we move from here, I want to talk about these noises because I believe that Jesus wants to cancel the noises in our head. Look at this. Truths. We all have noises in our lives that come from the hurt that have been brought on by our choosing or by others. Would you agree with that? If you agree, just say yes. Okay, good. All right, we're on the right track. Now, these voices are usually defined in one or two words. All right? Go ahead and turn to your neighbor and tell them no, I'm joking. We're not going to do that. But we do have noises. Number 3, we attempt to drown out these words through actions in our journey. Wouldn't you agree? See, we have things in our head. We have these noises in our head. These noises are defined by words, and these words we try to drown out to get rid of the noise. Now, this is what I need from you, okay? Active participation, but you don't have to voice it, you just can write. If you write, you'll get something out of it, I promise. Look at this. What are your words? What is your word, or what are your words? What's that word? Maybe it's this. Maybe it's failure. Maybe it's doubt. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's today. Today is not where you want to be. And I'm not talking about church. There's probably some of you here, you just came because your mom, and that's good. So she'll cook for you, I'm sure. All right? But here's the thing. Or yesterday. There's a yesterday. A lot of us have yesterdays, do we not? We also have tomorrows. And there's so much unknown. And so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to share my word, and I'm going to share my junk, okay? Because I have it too, all right? There's no perfect person in here. And just because I have the microphone doesn't mean I have it together. Find people with tags or staff members and ask them. They'll tell you. Now, look at this. My word is invisible, all right? No, it'd be cool to be an Avenger. Yes, I've tried. I applied to the Avenger school. They keep denying me. But here's the thing. I have an issue with feeling invisible. And isn't that crazy? I mean, well, why? Well, it's because of stuff yesterday. And so everything, when the rubber hits the road, so to speak, or when I'm in the corner where baby should never be put, when I'm there, what goes on is this. I go to that, I'm invisible. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm invisible. As I get older, you learn that being invisible is not bad all the time, right? It's like your husband. If you have a baby in here, right? If you have a baby and your husband somehow becomes invisible when your baby starts crying at night, they're no longer there. They're not breathing. They don't respond, right? So you understand the invisibility. But I deal with that. And so number two, how do I attempt to drown it out? Because we all drown out our words. We all drown out our noises. We don't want our noises in our head, and we don't know how to get them out. Today, I have a story that will show you that Jesus has died, and in dying, he was resurrected, and in resurrection, the noises are gone. Now, how do I deal with them? Number one, I become busier. I just do more, right? Because if you do more, you're seen more. But see, this is the issue when we try to compensate or we try to drown out the noises that are in our head. Why? Because then other parts of our life become empty. See, when we face things, we face those words, we face those doubts, we face those noises, whatever it may be, when we try to overcompensate, other parts of our life become unhealthy. And so when I become busier, who loses out? My wife, my kids, the people that I get to work beside, my parents. Number two, this is real. I didn't know I had a gum on top of my water bottle. That's kind of good. I guess for later, all right? But number two, this is what I've learned. Instead of rejoicing over the successes of my wife, not my life, my wife, I've learned to make noise for her where she can turn from what she's doing and say, I see you, John. That's number two, unhealthy response. Number three, then I get into this mindset that I want those kids to perform, because when my kids perform at the level that gets them attention, ultimately it gets me attention. And I don't become invisible anymore. But today, I want to tell you, and guys, this is not something that I've journeyed through completely. I'm not where I was, but I'm not where I need to be. But I struggle with being invisible. Important to know today, for those who may be checking Jesus out, there is a God who loves you and desires to deafen these noises. See, I grew up in a church, and I'm very thankful for that church, but Jesus had one purpose, and it was to get me to heaven. As soon as my name was in that book, he was like, okay, see you in about, 60 years. But no one told me how to walk this out. No one told me that these noises in my head, he wanted to take care of, because here's the thing. It says in 2 Corinthians 5:17, for all things become what? New. The noises in my head should go away. It's hard work. It takes faith. Number two, important to remember, for those who are Christ followers, God wants to remind you that these noises have been deafened forever. I don't care if you go to this church. We'd love to have you. God is doing work here. Absolutely, not because of us, but in spite of us. He's at work, but here's the thing. I hope today that you walk out of here with those noises, the volume a little lower. Because we have an enemy that wants to come to what? Steal, kill, and destroy, and distract. Steal, kill, destroy. He wants to distract us. Now look at this. What does God use to deafen these noises? Grace. Grace. God uses his grace. And so let's pass the microphone and say, what is grace? And we would all have different definitions, or sometimes maybe it was like when I was growing up in church, we knew grace, right? We sang amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Like somebody come up to you, so what's grace? I don't know, it's something that follows amazing. It's just in a song, right? But I want to show you something. Where we find grace, Ephesians 2:8-9, God saved you by what? His grace, not yours, not mine, not the church, not your job, but his grace. Look at this. When you, what? Believed. And you can't take credit for it. This is a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things we have done, so no one can boast about it. So here's the notes. We'll come back to the notes, right? Look at this. Go through it quickly. Grace is a gift. It's a gift. It says in Ephesians 2:8. Now, you don't have to go back there. But grace is a gift. All right? Anybody have a recent birthday? All right. Very good. How old are you? No, I'm joking. So, hi. Okay. Grace has a giver. If grace is a gift, grace has a giver because only givers give gifts. Grace has a gift. Grace has a giver. Grace cannot be earned. Gifts can't be earned. They can't. Then they become payment. Then they become payment. A gift cannot be earned. Then it's not a gift. Number 4, grace is not deserved. Why? Because here's the thing. I think we're changing things starting January 1st, 25? We just start making up numbers now for years. But we're going to start doing this, I believe, here. If your kid has a birthday, kids no longer get presents. It goes to the mom who gave birth to the kids. Right? Why do I get a gift? For the joy set before her. My mom endured labor, right? And so, but think about that. It's not deserved. We get birthday presents. What did I do? I worked hard at breathing, right? But look at this. Grace is either accepted or denied, and that's where it comes. There's what's real. So I need a volunteer from the audience. Okay. Come here. Okay. I watch you run. I watch you ran at the track meet. Very good job. Proud of you. So can you go ahead and share your name?
Jacoby.
Jacoby. Okay, Jacoby, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to read this. I've chosen someone out of the audience so I can check that off. You come up to the stage. Check that off. All right. I have a gift for you. Do you believe me? You do?
Yes, sir.
Why? Oh, okay. Your dad has $1,000 in his pocket. Do you believe me now?
No.
Okay, but I said so.
That's true.
Okay. All right. So my wife potentially has a gift in a card. All right? It's a gift. You didn't earn it, right? Did you do anything? Did you call me this morning and say, hey, I would love to get on stage?
No, sir.
All right. But you were ready to get up here anyway, right?
Yes, sir.
I thought so. All right. So what I want you to do, if you believe that my wife is holding a gift for you, go get it from her. That was the mic drop. All right. So go ahead and open it. Let's see what it is. It's a note that says your dad's going to give you $1,000. Happy Easter. No.
It is a cold smoke gift card.
There we go. All right. Did you do anything to earn it? No, sir. All you had to do was what?
Walk up.
Walk up, believe it was there, and receive it or deny it. And what did you do? Okay, I need it for second service. You can sit down. No, I'm joking. Thank you. So, where does this come from? So the idea again, it's a gift, has a giver, cannot be earned. It's not a gift then. It's not deserved, and it has to be accepted or denied. Now, where this came from is the story of Peter. And I'm going to quickly go through it because we're going to end this with a monologue in just a second. But Peter says Jesus says, hey, Peter, I'm going to go to the cross. I'm going to die, blah, blah, blah. And Peter's like, no, and Jesus said, yes, and before the rooster crows 3 times, you're going to deny me. And Jesus is like, Peter said, I would never, ever deny you. And then all of a sudden, Peter finds himself around the campfire, and there's a rooster crowing. And then he is horribly broken because there's a sound. And the sound has a word, and it's failure and unworthy. And probably a little bit of this. Are you kidding me? I've committed 3.5 years to this, and now I've lost it all. And so here's the beautiful thing about our risen Jesus. What's the sound of grace? The sound of grace is the sound that takes over those noises in your head, those words in your head. That word for me is invisible. The only thing that matters is God sees me and he knows me by name. That's what matters. Nothing else does. Now, check this out. So what is the noise, or what is the noise? What is the sound of grace? And it's this. It's cooking fish. Because Jesus shows up, Peter runs or swims to shore, finds Jesus. Jesus is cooking fish. It was called Heaven's Kitchen, right? But here's the thing. Not Hell's Kitchen. It was Heaven's Kitchen. Thank you. I like that guy. I'll use the bleeping, the other where we didn't say all those words. But long story short, here's the thing. It's cooking fish. When Peter gets out of the water, comes up to Jesus, Jesus does not say, "Hey, you unworthy piece of nothing. You're a failure. I'm so disappointed in you." No, he's just cooking fish. And guess what? Then Jesus speaks some words to Peter. After breakfast, Jesus asked, what's that? So sometimes we get it all wrong. Sometimes we think Jesus is going to show up and start talking to us. But he's probably going to have something to eat first, because he's about your heart. And here's the thing about Jesus. He's not insecure. The reason us parents stink sometimes is because we're insecure. We are. So we respond out of our insecurity. Yeah, we want a lot from our kids, and we want our kids to be successful, right? But at the same time, sometimes we don't respond correctly because we respond out of an insecurity of our lives, maybe. Jesus doesn't have any insecurity, so he cooks fish. And he starts talking after breakfast. Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter replied. "You know I love you." Then what does he do? He says, "Keep doing what I've called you to do." Guys, this is what I want to tell you this morning. It's very important to understand that there are some people like myself that have words. If you're a follower of Jesus, you have words that are pretty difficult. Somewhere, sometime in your life, you woke up and you did something, or it was a response of the pain of others in your life, and you've all of a sudden got these noises in your head. Jesus canceled these noises if you're a follower of Jesus. At the same time, God wants those noises to be gone. Why? Because he's a good dad. Look at this. Let's finish here. 4 things we need to remember. I could have given you 1,000, but that would have been a long service. Number 1, I have identity. If you're a follower of Jesus this morning, you've got to remember you have identity. It's not what you do or what people think you do or where you live or what you drive. It's the clothes you wear. It's not any of those things. Those things can be nice, and they're a gift if they're used properly, and we can use it to either further his kingdom and make it about Jesus, but at the same time, we have an identity. Look at this. "But to all who believed him and accepted him, he gave the right to become children of God." Let me tell you something. As a follower of Jesus, you have a right. A right? Are you kidding me? A right to be called son and daughter. There's some of you out here that are facing things because of the pain of your mom or dad of yesterday. I've got a story to tell you. This is the story, and this is how it ends. You have a God that loves you. He's a perfect dad, and he calls you child.
Think about it.
That's beautiful, right? I was fortunate enough to have a good mom and dad, but there's still some times that they don't live it out properly, just like none of us do. And it's good to know that I have a dad. I have a perfect father. Number 2, I am forgiven. I love this verse, Psalm 32:5. It's a psalm that David writes. "Finally, I confessed all my sins to you and stopped trying to hide my guilt." This is after he committed adultery. This is after he committed premeditated murder. Look at this. "Finally, I confessed all my sins to you and stopped trying to hide my guilt." Look at what this says. "I said to myself, I will confess my rebellion to the Lord, and he forgave me." And look at this. All my guilt is gone. What is guilt? It's the noises that are running through your head. And either the truth of what David writes from God inspired is right on, or it's not. But this tells me the noise of being invisible shouldn't be there, because that's guilt of something that happened from yesterday. And according to God, through Jesus, I don't have a yesterday. Now, I'm not telling you to just try hard. Okay, 1, 2, 3, disappear noise. Still there. You're going to have to start believing these. Here's the thing. Jesus shows up, cooks fish. He talks to Peter, but Peter has to do what? He has to accept the grace offered. Look, I have purpose. What's your purpose? You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. You have purpose. You have identity. You are forgiven. I love this one. The creator of the universe knows my name. So when you lay your head down tonight or tomorrow or sometime and you feel like a failure, don't miss God whispering, whatever your name is. For me, it's John. Hey, John, I know you. The creator of the universe, the one who created the super amazing universe, knows my name. He calls his own sheep by name and he leads them out. Not only does he call me, he leads me out. So if you're a follower of Christ this morning, you've got to remember that you have identity, you're forgiven, you have purpose. And what? He knows your name. If you are not a follower of Jesus, that's what he wants to give you. You just have to admit that you're hopeless and helpless. And here's the thing, if we're real with ourselves, we know we are. We're tired of the noises. Which leads to this, what's our response? As followers of Jesus, if we have received grace to cancel the noises, what is our response to the grace that we have received?
In biblical times, people had a way of dealing with wrong. Rocks. Someone would point out the offender in the crowd, and people would come running, picking up a cold, hard ballot of a stone and cast their vote against wrong. It was their way. Until one hot day in the Middle East, a man stepped between the rock throwers and the accused. A woman had been caught in adultery. They drug her into the crowd. Clothes, if she had any on, had been torn off. And as hot tears spilled from her face, she sat there. Where was the man? Was she his heart's love or just the afternoon's activities? There's no way to know. And either way, he wasn't there and she was alone. And they were on her with rocks in their hands. They, the self-righteous pillars of the community. They, the super pious upholders of moral rightness. With their crowd-pleasing indignation over wrong. She'd sinned and been caught and found herself dead-ended in a circle of angry religious people, rocks in their hands. Have you ever felt how good it feels to throw a rock? I mean, to feel the weight of the stone and then just the release as you let it fly. Is that what they felt that day? That every rock somehow held the judgment of the community, carried the weight. It had become a familiar scene. No, caught, wrong, punish, they would yell. And they would just throw their rocks and throw them until the one in the middle was silent. They were fueled as much by each other as the crime. And they would revel that the sin was avenged. The problem is, rocks don't hit sin. Rocks hit people. And thousands of years later, they still do. Oh, we're too sophisticated nowadays to be throwing granite. But the words that we throw in judgment can hit as hard as any stone. And the release we feel can sometimes be just as exhilarating. 4 teenagers die on a Friday night from drunk driving, and we throw our rocks. Well, they shouldn't have been drinking. No, they shouldn't have been. But does that ease the pain for their parents? And as we throw, we convince ourselves that if the rock lands just in the right place, it can knock out evil. Plant the rock squarely in the forehead of your foe, and your side wins. If the goal is to kill our enemy, remember the story of David and Goliath? Then that might be the answer. But if our goal is to change a friend's heart, it is definitely not. We can sometimes knock sense into a person, but we can't knock out sin. Do you remember the scene in Forrest Gump where Jenny goes back to her childhood home, where her daddy, her trusted daddy, would come into her bedroom? She picks up a rock and she throws, cracking a window, and she stares hard. And she picks up another one and she throws, tears falling down her cheeks until she just collapses. And Forrest, in his own simple way, says, sometimes there's just not enough rocks. And there's not. It comes at different times for all of us. Sometimes you've come with your rock in your hand until you get to the circle and you see that the one in the middle is your loved one. And the things that were so easily able to be judged before now has a face and a name that you love. Your child calls from jail or confesses that they've been addicted to some substance. Your best friend confesses in agony that she's thinking about having an affair. And sure, maybe at first anger comes and you tighten your grip on that rock and you clench your teeth and you want to tell them exactly what you feel about that sin. Just beat it right out of them. But you don't. You don't. These are drop your rock moments. You realize that you can drop your rock and your tears fall and your grip loosens. You hear that? The flat thud of grace. I wonder what she felt that day, hunched over, waiting to feel the pain of all of those rocks, and instead, just the sound of them dropping. Have you ever been there? Telling a friend of something you did terribly wrong, hunched over emotionally, just waiting to hear the cold stone words of rebuke, and instead receive an understanding flat thud of grace. She looked up that day, and they were gone. It was just him and her. And he looked at her and said, "Neither they condemn you, nor do I. They don't judge you, and neither do I." But he loved her too much to leave her there. He said, "Go and sin no more." The thud of grace led to freedom. Rock of ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. Today, as we continue to worship, if you realize that you need grace, grace that will lead to freedom. If some of you have sat here this morning and you think, I keep hearing Friday is good because Sunday is coming, but it still feels like Friday to you. Life is still hard. Marriage is hard. Bills are hard. and you need to talk to someone, please don't leave this morning. We'll have people down here to pray with you, to talk to you. We can go back to the connection room. But whatever business that you and God need to do this morning, I pray that you would know that grace is available for you. And it leads to freedom. Freedom and victory. Because He lives, we can face tomorrow. It is by grace that we have been set free.
Thank you for checking out Timber Ridge Church here on YouTube. If you would like to see a previous message, click here. If you would like to stay up to date with all things TRC, subscribe here.